Hello and welcome. The Indian information technology sector has been undergoing a transition right now, and a challenging one. But how does a company like Persistent Systems survive and thrive in such circumstances? Well, let's find out. I'm in conversation with Dr. Anand Deshpande. He's the founder and CEO of Persistent Systems, and he's going to tell us and perhaps take us through the challenges that not just Persistent Systems faces, but the entire Indian information technology sector. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
So, starting off with the fact that this transition, we've seen a lot of changes happening, and we're also looking at a lot of companies trying to change their business models. Now, Persistent Systems specifically has seen a growth rate of comfortably over 20% over the past couple of years. And I know that you don't give a guidance, but there is conjecture that it'll just be about double digits. Is this one of the reasons why there could be some amount of relatively subdued growth when it comes to revenues for Persistent Systems?
Okay, let me step back and give you a little bit of a context of what's going on in the market and what we are doing very specifically and why the growth numbers are what they are. So, in the last few years, what has happened is that there has been a change in the way people are using and deploying and building technology. Essentially, what we have been calling out is for the last 3 years is that the effort required for the same work has been going down. And why is this happening? This is happening predominantly because of next generation of technology platforms,
right,
such as cloud and then the big data stuff and all the other libraries that have started to become available. So if I'm building a new product right now, instead of building all the scaffolding and everything, infrastructure that would have been necessary, I can take advantage of many of these libraries and available infrastructure and write code much more efficiently.
Right.
So whatever may have required, let's say X number of people and Y number of days to get the job done, you can do it at a significantly lower number of people and faster time, meaning less time for doing the projects.
Right.
So that has been the big shift in terms of the market. To give you a sort of crude analogy, if you were to run a business with the bullock carts, now you have a tractor in the mix.
Right.
So this basically means that we have had to shift our business model, and traditionally most of Persistent's business came out of effort-based billing. So our business has been focused on working with software product companies, building products for them.
Right.
And our billing model has been to work with them in a model where we get paid for the effort that we put in, which means a number of hours, months, people at a rate and all that stuff. And clearly by doing really good stuff, we are able to bring this effort down, which means our billings have been going down partly, even though everything is good and that's really what needs to happen. If we keep the same business model, our total revenues will go down. So we had identified this a while back, and we realized that we had a few strengths in the business.
Right.
One is, of course, that we work with the product companies that build next generation technology. So we have a DNA in the company of product development, so building products for companies.
Right.
We found that this expertise of ours is not only valuable to product companies, but everybody wants to become a software driven business.
Right.
Every business, whether it's a bank or it's a medical doctor, hospitals, all of these things, they are all starting to become data centric, very technology driven, and the business is so data and technology driven that they are starting to sort of believe that they are becoming like software businesses.
Right.
GE has made those announcements with Predix and other things that we are a software company in many ways.
Right.
We had an article from the CEO of Domino's Pizza who said that Domino's is really a software company.
Right.
Now you would expect them to be a pizza company and focus on the food and the taste and all of those things, but they said their profitability depends a lot on the nature of how they run the software for their business.
Right.
So everywhere there is a change happening, and we decided that it's an opportunity for us at Persistent to shift from our traditional effort-based business to a business that is more comprised of IP and data and solutions that we are building for our customers. So we have been making this shift for the last couple of years in terms of our business model, and that's really been both challenging and exciting in some sense.
Okay, so let me come to information technology spends, and we're looking at a shift there as well.
Yes.
And a lot of companies are now looking for not really run the business but change the business models.
Correct.
And based on that, how are you viewing that change and the type of IT spends for Persistent Systems?
Correct. So, traditionally we have not worked with IT user community. So typically our business model has been to work with software product companies.
Right.
So in this market, we are a newbie in a sense. And most of my competitors have worked with these kinds of companies run the business projects for them. All of a sudden in the last few years, we have realized that all of these companies are disrupting themselves and are operating in a disruptive market, being pushed by the next generation of born digital or born in the cloud companies.
Right.
So all of them are trying to say, okay, I need to change my business and think differently because that's the only way I can survive.
Right.
And what we have found is that when you are building your next generation business, so I wanted to do something new that would change my business, which is different from my run the business.
Right.
I'm looking at different ways of building that solution. Traditional ways actually don't work very well.
Right.
And that has created an opportunity for companies like Persistent, where we have not traditionally worked with the bank or the enterprises. All of a sudden they now have a need for our kind of work. The product development work is starting to become very relevant to a broader and a wider market space.
Right.
So we find that this has created a nice opportunity for us to take our strengths and expertise from the last 20 years of building products to a new market, enterprises, and we are trying to focus mainly on financial services, healthcare, mainly there again in the provider ecosystem, and the third has been mostly in the industrial IoT space. So these are three main verticals where we are focusing on the new change the business kind of a business model.
I also want to know of what your clients are thinking right now, what they want to do over the span of next 5 years, and how are you changing and adapting to their requirements?
Correct. See, as I said, our customer base has shifted now from traditionally those who are just product development companies to any enterprise which wants to build next generation of products or become a software driven business.
Right.
So now the way these traditional enterprises or enterprises who want to transform themselves realize is that one, their business models are under threat. The traditional ways of how they did their business is changing dramatically, and they need to do different things to change their business. And I'm going to give you 2 examples and 3 examples in that area. So one is of course Tesla. So traditionally auto companies build products in a certain way. Tesla has built a car which is predominantly a software driven car. So there's a software base and they're able to upgrade the software of that car very effectively. The car, if you look at it, has very few components and it's a lot of software.
Right.
And the entire platform is very software driven. So you can it's very flexible. You can upgrade it, and in a period of time you can keep changing it.
Right.
So the whole concept of building a car and keeping the car running and sort of active and changing all the time, that's a concept that completely takes the traditional car companies on the back foot in some sense.
Right.
Because once they sell the car, that's all. They can't really keep changing it. Tesla can come back after 3 months and put another version of a car and another version of a car.
Right.
So a lot of different changes are happening in the way people are building products. So what we say is give you very specifically 3 or 4 things that are very different right now in terms of how companies are building stuff. One is they are doing this incrementally and iteratively. So instead of building something that's going to be lasting for so instead of selling a washing machine that's going to remain in your house for 20 years, we want to sell you a washing machine that you buy now.
Right.
And you keep upgrading it on an ongoing basis that takes advantage of newer and newer technology that starts to happen. So you want to build them incrementally and iteratively. Second, people are very interested in doing this in a personalized way. So I want to know what your family is, what kind of clothes you wash, how often you wash, and then program your washing machine in such a way that you are getting the best personalized service for your products.
Right.
So that's again another thing that's starting to happen. And this is happening in every field, whether it's airlines, whether it's hospitals, where when you go to the doctor needs to know, the hospital needs to know who you are and then respond accordingly.
Right.
And the third thing that is happening is because of the next generation devices and technologies and data that we are carrying, everyone is expecting that you are going to take advantage of everything that you already know about me and the information I have given you already,
Yes.
and be precise about delivering services that are appropriate for me,
Right.
and not just ask me to come to some web portal and kind of find out
Right.
what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And in the last few years, we have seen some very nice things that have happened that have made this possible. And there are examples, like for example, Amazon knows a lot about everything that you have bought so far, where you bought it from, shipping, all of these things, and they can really give you guidance, suggestions on what you might want to buy.
Right.
And these kinds of things are starting to happen in every single industry and every single field of
Right.
science and technology. So companies realize that they have to do this next generation of R&D and spend, but the money that they have, they feel they can squeeze from existing systems. So you have run the system that was running at a certain point, I've moved it to the cloud. So I have gotten some extra efficiencies in the way I can run and manage my existing environment.
Right.
That can deliver 20-30% improvements in performance in terms of price, performance, all of that stuff,
Right.
which can then be leveraged to put into this new stuff that everyone wants to do.
Okay.
And the faster people are able to make this kind of a transition to really invest in the next generation of stuff and build a culture within the organization to be able to be responsive to these changes, that's really what is going to happen, and that's what's going to make somebody successful.
Okay. There's lots been said about your developments with respect to your partnership with IBM.
Correct.
We'd want to know about what this partnership involves and how you expect this partnership to evolve in the future.
Okay. So, we've been working with IBM for a very long time. IBM is one of the largest software product companies in some sense, and we have had a very strong relationship of building products for IBM in the traditional effort-based model.
Right.
IBM is also going through a certain change in their business, and they decided very specifically to focus on the IoT business, which is the Internet of Things business. And clearly from the IBM's point of view, it's like we have all these customers, they're going to do their next generation solutions, they're going to bring data from devices, bring it into our data platforms that IBM has. They have a very nice environment which is typically referred to as Watson, which is the machine learning stuff that they can apply on data, and they can give really good solutions to customers in the IoT space. So that's IBM's vision, and we had an opportunity where there's a set of products that IBM has which are referred to as the IBM continuous engineering product portfolio.
Yes.
Now, as I mentioned to you, companies like Tesla are interested in building products which are continuously evolving. They look at the feedback that the car is giving them in the field and then go back and fix the design so that they can send the next version of the car to look better.
Right.
So this whole continuous feedback, which is typically being referred to as the digital twin. So IBM has a set of products in this market which they were building out. So we had an arrangement where we took over the responsibility of the entire product from IBM, including taking the responsibility of some of their key, actually all their key individuals.
Right.
And we are now responsible for the next generation product roadmap for the continuous engineering product portfolio. And this is very significant from Persistent's point of view because one, this demonstrates our ability to take responsibility beyond staffing or project and project management, but taking responsibility product roadmap.
Right.
And in the process, we are based not on effort in this one, but we are based on a revenue share agreement.
Right.
So I'm putting my skin in the game on the product. I'm responsible for developing a better product.
Right.
The better product will generate better revenues for all of us, and I'll get a better share of the revenue. So it's not just okay, here I tell you what to do, you do it. We are defining what needs to happen. So that's
Right.
significant in itself. The products are actually very important in the context of where the next generation of software is going to get built. So if you realize the next generation of software, the way it's going to get built is going to be different from the way it was built in the past.
Right.
And we call this software 4.0. And these tools are really the tools that are required for this stuff, especially when you look at security, regulated industries, and things like that.
Right. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that is important in this market, and which is again, as I mentioned to you, we have shifted our customer base from being traditionally product companies to being users of product companies, and IoT is a big part of that. And when you go to a new market where somebody wants to build an IoT solution, they don't know Persistent all that well. Having a partnership with IBM really helps us in establishing our credibility into a new market.
Right.
And when we go to somebody as an IBM partner, someone who's building products that they are already using, then that credibility helps us in establishing a foothold and a really positioning in that market where we think that in the future that's going to be a very big market, the IoT space, and our partnership with IBM sets us up really well for that.
Okay, so speaking of products, what does this do for Accelerite? What do you have in store for Accelerite?
Correct.
And will it have a larger revenue share going forward?
So, Accelerite, so again, going back, Persistent has traditionally been a services company. So if you look at our website, it talks a lot about how we build software, and building software is our business, and we tend to work with other people. When we have been acquiring products, IP, building our own IP, we found that selling them as Persistent is confusing to customers.
Okay.
So we decided that we should have a separate brand which we call Accelerite for the product business of Persistent.
Right.
So Accelerite is Persistent's product business thing. So if we are selling our own products, we sell them as a brand called Accelerite right now, and we could do other brands as well. But that's really the plan. So right now we have a set of products that are part of the Accelerite portfolio. Very specifically, there are 3 lines of products that Accelerite has at the moment that we are selling as Accelerite. One set is around endpoint client management. So you have these laptops or devices that you have all over the place. You want to keep the software upgraded to the latest version that the enterprise chooses. You want to track what assets are there on the software, what software assets are running on your PC device, whatever else, and patch them in case there are any issues, especially considering security and all that. So that's one set of products that we have, and we have made a few more additions to other products in that basic product line in some sense. The second product line that we have is around what we call the cloud products, what we have done is we picked a product from Citrix called Cloud Stack, which is actually allows companies to build their own private public cloud. So if you want to run a cloud like an Amazon does and add devices and all that, so this product allows you to do that. So that's the other product that we sell and brand as Accelerite.
Right.
And the third one is around IoT. So we acquired a set of assets from Intel around the Epona product portfolio, and those products have been designed for orchestration in the telecom carrier network, and then they have been extended for IoT orchestration in the telecom and other carrier networks, and there's a billing and a monetization solution as well that we have. The other big thing that we have done this year to enhance our focus in IoT is that we brought this IoT assets that we have in Accelerite with the parts of IoT that we are selling on our own.
Right.
See, if we don't sell the product on our own, it doesn't make sense for us to move it to Accelerite. Then it stays as Persistent.
Yes.
If we are selling the product in the market on our own, then instead of selling as Persistent, where there could be a channel conflict, we like to sell at Accelerite.
Right.
So the IoT
Right.
portfolio now we have moved into an Accelerite like IoT portfolio, where we're going to sell Concert is the brand that we are calling it, but we will sell a set of Concert like products.
Right. New intellectual properties you're most excited about?
I'm very excited about, so let me explain to you. There are 4 or 5 areas that I'm really excited about what's going to happen in the future, where we are betting as well. So I'm very hot on machine learning right now.
Okay.
So I think machine learning has turned the corner. It has become far more accessible and usable.
Right.
And it has crossed the tipping point both in terms of availability, costs, and various other things, and also the availability of data. So I think machine learning is the next 3 years. Machine learning is going to be the dominant technology in many areas.
Right.
And whoever, whatever, should figure this out.
Yeah.
The second area that, of course, I'm always been bullish on for the last 30 years. I've worked in the data business. I think the data business is going to become even more important. People are going to monetize data, and data integration and bringing data all together for the right kinds of things is going to become a big challenging opportunity, and also a challenge because data today exists in very different formats. There are lots of data sets that are getting generated. The amount of data getting generated is phenomenal. So bringing it all together and making sense out of that data is going to become it's always an interesting problem. It's going to continue to be an interesting problem. One sort of outlier in the stuff that I'm kind of excited about is blockchain. I think there is a lot of excitement. People talk a lot about it.
Right.
But I think the exact evolution of which distributed computing algorithms are best set up for blockchain, and when do blockchains really make sense, and what is the commercial viability of blockchain algorithms. I think we are still a year away from starting to see that. There's a lot of experimentation, including stuff that we are doing in this area, and
right.
I'm quite excited about what the rapid pace at which people are trying out new things, and I think you will see some pretty startlingly interesting applications being set up on blockchain in the next 12 to 18 months. So I'm quite excited about that. And the last area that I'm going to mention is I'm always I think the new biology, okay, is going to be is a very fast evolving area. That sort of ties up a whole bunch of things like healthcare, public health, and a whole bunch of other things,
Right.
and the biology around it. I think people are living longer. It's very clear.
Yes.
The costs of what it costs for people to live longer is going up significantly, and I think the next generation of ability to monitor, ability to track, all the IoT stuff that we talked about on machines is going to kind of come into humans as well, and the ability to do all the stuff that's going on with stem cells, the next generation biology, the understanding that we have, our ability to cure disease and also focus a lot more on wellness, I think is going to change the way we live and we look at healthcare in the next few years.
Right.
So that's an area which, I think it's a little bit complicated in some ways. I don't personally understand it all that well because it's not going to be very isolated anymore. It's going to be a systems thing. So, you have to worry about many different things at the same time, and somehow I find that in the next 3 years, many of these pieces are falling into place, that you will start to see a dramatic improvement in how we look at healthcare and wellness in the next few years.
A word on the human workforce.
Yes.
Is it going to be absolutely inevitable that we're going to see it dwindle? And if not, how do you see the human workforce evolve in terms of skilling and specialization?
I think it's a very good question that you have asked, and I think it's a very important question for everybody to think about and figure out. Okay, let's look at it from both the positive, negative, and all these kinds of sets. So one set, if you look at it from just outside in, as I said, there is a lot happening on the technology sector. Machine learning, data analytics, mobile devices, mobility, the next generation of networking. And if you look at it, map it into India itself, right? So India, we now have more than 1 billion phones, more than 1 billion Aadhaar IDs, so individual unique identification of various kinds are starting to happen. Ability to make payments through BHIM and all the other infrastructure that's getting set up. So the whole ecosystem for technology has started to dramatically and exponentially grow for us in India and all that. So really, if you really think about innovation, next generation of cool stuff that's going to happen, it's all going to happen in tech and IT.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity for someone who is an individual in this area to look at, what's happening.
Right.
So that's the good news part. The problem, of course, is that traditionally in the IT business that we have been here, we employ a large number of people, several million. And there has been a technology shift that's happening very rapidly, and more so in the last 2 to 3 years. And I see that continuing for the next 3 years or so. So what has happened, and when you look at anything exponential, right, everything that you know so far will become obsolete,
right,
in the next cycle that comes
yes.
up.
Yeah.
So the problem is that unless you are willing, and meaning you don't have a choice by and large, but unless you commit to investing and keeping yourselves updated and ready and skilled, there's a whole bunch of people who are coming into the ecosystem who will know a lot more than you.
Right.
So, it becomes very hard for an incumbent in some sense who is already in the business, and this is probably what Clayton Christensen in his books talks about in the context of businesses is going to happen to individuals as well.
Right.
So if an individual doesn't find a way to keep pace with what's happening,
Right.
Unfortunately there are other people in the system who are going to take away their jobs or whatever else that is needed.
Right.
So there is going to be a lot more work to be done. There's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of good stuff, but what was is not what is going to be in the future, right? So somehow people have to figure this out and accept the fact that, I cannot just live on my past, but I have to keep myself updated for the future.
Right.
And it's a hard job.
Yeah. Well, these are some very interesting thoughts. Dr. Deshpande, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, my pleasure.